Okay everyone, so today we're going to be doing a little class on finding your perfect squat. So a lot of the time in the clinic, people are telling us that they're having issues with their knees while they're doing squats, they're feeling their back, they're not able to load up and actually push through a bit of a weight plateau in terms of loading. So today we're going to talk about a couple different things that can kind of contribute to that. So we're going to turn it into a workout though, of course. So we just grab a quick sip of water and then we're going to start by standing and warming up our hips from a standing position. Okay, so you can grab onto something for balance if you're needing that, a wall or a chair. I'm going to face towards you and you're just going to lift one leg up, circle it around, out, and then back in. And we're just going to go back and forth, out, and around. I forgot to tell you too, this is going to be a quicker workout. So we're going to be here for 15 minutes. We're going to work through some hip range of motion stuff. We're going to see if we can kind of pinpoint any little tightnesses or blocked joints or anything like that. Anywhere that you're kind of feeling some pinching, maybe just try to identify where it's kind of stopping you from being able to squat a little bit deeper. We'll just do this one more time each side. Out and then back in, and then out and then back in. And then go ahead and grab onto a chair or wall. And we're just going to do some leg swings, just going back and forth. So really, we're just trying to get a little bit of warmth into our joints, a little bit of juice going, back and forth, and then same thing, other side, just little leg swings. I'm freezing today, so we definitely got to get moving, back and forth. Okay, so what I want you to just try first is just try doing a squat. So just drop down as if you're going to sit into a chair. Don't overthink it too much, just kind of maybe jog on the spot, do a couple little marches, and then just drop down into a squat. And let's just kind of see where you're finding any kind of stiffness, maybe feeling like, oh, I get stuck about here, I can't go any further. And we'll just do this a few more times, little jog, and then find a squat, little jog, find a squat. And I want you to experiment with a little bit of a narrower squat, little narrow squat, maybe a little bit of a wider squat, maybe a little bit of a turned out squat. Just going back and forth. Let's just kind of see what feels comfortable, what feels not so good, what depth of a squat makes you feel like you want to bend forward more. I see this one a lot. People want to squat like this. I want you to start thinking about what position with your feet you can get your butt down the lowest, all the way down. I don't care about your back rounding right now. I don't care about how far forward your knees are going right now. We don't have any weight on us, like weight, barbell, dumbbells. Little squat. Hopefully we're starting to get a little bit warm. It is so cold. November. Couple more times, little jog and a squat, and little jog and a squat. And then just for fun, we're going to come to the front of your mat. You're going to cross one leg behind the other, and you're going to squat all the way down and try to lower yourself down without using your hands. And then we're going to come all the way onto our backs, hug your knees into your chest. Okay, so let's start talking about our hips first. So I want you to have your knees right together and try to pull them close towards you. Now, depending on the shape of your own unique hip socket, your hips might feel maybe a little bit pinchy in this position. Maybe it feels just fine. Maybe you feel like you really have to round your low back in order to pull your knees towards your chest. So then take your knee in each hand and then go ahead and open it a couple inches and then pull towards you. And maybe you feel like you can get a little bit more range of motion out of that hip, or not. Again, it's going to depend on your own hip shape. Take it a little bit wider, pull towards you. Take it a little bit wider, pull towards you. And again, this is just kind of an experiment. We're just kind of seeing where we are feeling the most comfortable, and I'm just kind of slowly going a little bit further out, a little bit further out, a little bit further out. So for me, I actually don't love being out this far. The sides of my hips start to get quite pinchy, so I'm a lot more comfortable about shoulder width apart, actually. I feel like I don't have my low back just jamming into the floor, I can actually relax my low back and actually fold at the hip socket. So let's try that a couple times, just coming in through the center, slowly pulling as you open your knees a little bit wider, and just kind of finding that nice comfortable position that you can feel like you actually get a nice gentle movement of your knees coming towards you and your low back is not squishing in. Now, I am pulling my knees quite close to me. Something else you might want to think about is maybe you're not able to do that right now, and that's okay. Let's work at a little bit of a less angle of the hip joint. So bring your knees a little bit away from you and then go through that same thing. Where can you kind of be comfortably that you find that nice, easy hip flexion movement without your low back completely squishing into the ground? And if anything, this is just kind of a nice little hip mobilizer as we're kind of coming in, kind of pulling as we're getting a little bit wider, a little bit wider, a little bit wider. And again, for me, I don't like being out this wide. I like being a little bit more narrow. Okay, so once you kind of find that position that feels the most comfortable, just bring one knee into your chest and send the opposite leg down. And we're just going to do some ankle circles on both feet. Ankle circle, around and around, and then reverse the direction. Think about just relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your neck, trying to relax the front of that hip of the leg that you have in towards you. And then relax those ankles. And then you're going to take your thumb, you're going to place it at the front of your hip of the knee that you're going to bend. And you're going to actually push. So I'm right at the crease of my hip. I've got my thumb right where that kind of ropey hip flexor is. And I'm actually going to push it down as I bring my knee closer. So ideally, that's going to take away some of that pinch, and it's going to encourage you to get a little bit deeper into that hip flexion, and that's what we're wanting for a squat. We want to have a good amount of hip flexion so that we don't put extra pressure through our through our knees and our ankles. So I'm just adding that little bit of a push into the front of my hips as I bring that knee towards me. And one more, little bit of a push as I bring that knee towards me. And then bring the opposite leg up and just kind of compare side to side. So obviously the one that we just did that little mobilization on should feel a little bit more mobile, that can actually come towards your chest a little bit more. And then we're going to reach to the opposite side, send that first leg down, and then ankle circles around for 4, 3, 2, 1, and then reverse for 4, 3, 2, 1, and then same thing. I'm going to take my thumb, place it at the front of that hip socket, right where that kind of ropey hip flexor is, and then gently push it away as I pull that knee in towards me. So just a little bit of active release here. And if you're like me, my right side, so I've got my right knee into my chest, my right side, so my right low back and my right lateral stabilizer muscles have always been a little extra fiery for me. That's where I like to kind of try to stabilize things from. And that's from years and years and years of dance and having a little bit more flexibility on my left side. I was always standing on my right side. So as I'm kind of pushing my hip flexor away, I'm actually feeling a stretch into my right glute. And that's fine. That's okay if you're feeling that too. So we're just gently bringing that knee in. I'm spending a little extra time on this side. And then go ahead, grab the right knee in the right hand, grab the left knee in the left hand, and then just see if you can compare from where you started to where you are now in terms of that nice hip flexion. Hopefully it feels a little bit more mobile. Maybe your low back's feeling a little bit more free. You've got a little bit more motion at the front of the hips. Okay, so let's talk about knees. So all I want you to do is just stretch it all the way out, slide it all the way in, stretch it all the way out, slide it all the way in. So I want you to notice as you're just bending and straightening those knees, do you have one side that feels a little bit tighter than the other? For me, it's my left side actually. Just feels like I can't quite get my heel as close to my bum as I want it. And I know for me, that's due to a little bit more tightness through my right quad. So my right quad muscle goes all the way down the front of my leg. My kneecap sits in the middle of the tendon of the quad muscle. So it kind of comes all the way down, the tendon runs over my knee, and it inserts into my tibia at the front. So if my quad is tight, it's quite common to have some tension going through the front of the knee. So just do this a few more times. We're just really warming up the joint and doing a little bit of a self-assessment at the same time, seeing where our tightnesses are. Good, let's do one more on each side. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna line our sides. I'm gonna face towards you. So I've got my left leg at the top. I'm just gonna go ahead and bend that left leg, bring the heel towards my bum, and then I'm just gonna find a quad stretch. So you can just stay like this, but what I don't want your knees together. I want you to have that knee in line with your hip. And then add a little bit of a hip extension. So you're bringing that thigh backwards as you gently pull that heel towards your bum. If this feels like you want more of a stretch, you can take that bottom leg and just kind of cross it over. It's not required, but if you want more of a stretch, you can. And yeah, definitely for me, I've got quite a bit of quad tension right now, so I'm feeling it all the way into the front of my knee. So we're just gonna hold this another couple of breaths. And what I want you to do is actually push, so you're pushing your foot into your hand as you're holding this position. So push your foot into your hand and activate through your quad, and then just really gently let it go. And then again, push that foot into your hand and really gently let it go. One more, push that foot into your hand and really gently let it go. And then let it go, and we're gonna switch over to the other side. I'm just gonna swing my legs around. Okay, I said it was gonna be 15 minutes. I think it might be a tiny bit longer than 15 minutes, but that's always par for the course. So we bend through those legs, we bring that knee in line with your hip, and then you're just finding that nice little quad stretch. And definitely for me, my right quad is a lot more mobile than my left quad. I'm still gonna take my bottom leg and just find that nice little extra increased stretch. But then same thing here, we're gonna push that top foot into the hand that's holding it, and then let it go. And then again, push, and let it go. One more, push, and let that go. Okay, and then come back onto your back, and then I just want you to find that little heel slide again, and I just want you to notice, maybe you've got a little bit more range of motion, we're hoping. Okay, so what I want you to do from here is you're actually gonna bring those knees back into that squat position. You're gonna hold onto your shins, and I want you to press your heels, or your shins, calf muscles towards your thigh. And then maybe just think about relaxing your low back and allowing the front of your hips to relax. So we've got some good flexion happening through your hips and your knees at the same time. So you can even check out the width of your eventual squat here with your calves pressing down with that full knee flexion, and see if that maybe changes the width of where you want your squat to be. There's a lot of nuance in terms of rotation through the bottom of our leg that we can be looking at, but for a little self-assessment perspective, it's kind of neat to see if adding that extra little bit of knee flexion changes how wide you want that squat to be. Okay, so from here, we're gonna rock and roll, kick your legs up, and come all the way up to sitting. Okay, so now we're gonna look at our ankles. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your one foot in front of the other. So we're just gonna be like this. You can see my ankle here. I want you to think about that nice tripod stance of your foot. So we've got our heel, we've got the joint under your big toe, and then you've got the joint under your baby toe. So you want to try to find that. I'm gonna pull it a little bit closer to me so I can get my weight over top of it. But you want to try to find those three points of your foot. And then keeping that contact, you're gonna drive your knee forward. I'm doing this weird position so you can see my foot. Drive your knee forward while maintaining the contact with the heel on the ground, and see how far forward you can actually get your knee. And then bring it back, and try that a few times. So drive it all the way forward. And this is where people get often very locked up in their squat, is actually from their ankles. They're not able to achieve that full dorsiflexion range of motion. So we're just checking again. This is a little bit of a self-assessment to see, can I maintain that You do not have to be in this position, by the way. I'm just trying to show you. You can be here and pushing yourself forward. I'm just in this weird position to show you. But I want you to see, can you achieve as much dorsiflexion as possible with that heel staying in contact with the ground and without your ankle tendons popping out and trying to stop you? So check in with your toes when you're in this deep dorsiflexion position and see if your toes are starting to scrunch up. Try to relax them and spread them long. And come out of it, and then check the other side. So I'm going to turn, I'm going to get myself into that weird position again, but you, again, can just be here. We're going to find that tripod stance. So we've got the heel, the big toe, and the baby toe, and then we're driving that knee forward as far as it can go without that heel lifting up off the ground, and then we're spreading our toes as long and as wide as possible. We're trying to keep the ankle tendons from popping forward and come out of it. And we're just going back and forth. And again, self-assessment, we're just seeing where our limitations are. But at the same time, we are mobilizing that ankle. Spread those toes long. Little push forward and back. All right. Let's come out of it. Let's try our squat. But first, let's try it from this position. So when you're lying on your back, you found your width of a squat that you want to be in. I want you to keep your ankles relaxed at the back. So I don't want them tucked under right now. I just want them kind of out of the picture. But you want to find how wide apart those hips wanted to be. So again, I was about shoulder width. And then just bring your hands a little bit further in front of you. And then all you're going to do is you're going to sit back without letting your back change shape. So you're trying to keep your back as nice and neutral as possible, and you're just letting it sit back. So most of you should be able to get a decent amount of flexion through your hips and your knees without having to round your back. So we're going to remember this when we go to stand up. Hopefully we're getting at least to 90, ideally maybe a little bit deeper. But 90 is kind of a nice place to start. And we're just allowing those hips to slide in the sockets, keeping our back nice and long, mimicking a squat when we go to stand up. Okay, so now let's stand up. And you're gonna do the same thing. So again, trying to find that same distance of your thighs to where you just were lying on your back and in the squatting or the kneeling squat position. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to allow those knees to come forward. You're going to allow your butt to drop down just like you did in the 4-point and see if your ankles are stopping you from going further. They probably are. That's the way our bodies work. But I want to see if where you got to in this position is very different than where you got to in this position. So if you're finding that as you go down, you're like, good, block, your ankles don't go any further, so instead you have to either round your back or you're coming forward, I want you to do this. You're gonna actually roll your mat up. So we're rolling it up a decent amount to create a ledge for your heels, and then you're doing the exact same squat position, and what you find is that you can actually get quite a bit further down. So by taking the ankle joint block or restriction out, we're able to get more range of motion through your hips and your knees. So if you find that all of a sudden, whoa, my squat is actually quite drastically different, you need to work on your ankle mobility. I think I'll have to do a whole other video just on ankle mobility, but check that out. Now, you're gonna work in the squat position that works for you. So for me, I'm fine with my heels flat on the ground. I've got a decent amount of range of motion. What I'm gonna think about is, okay, I found my squat position, I've got my width. I'm gonna drive my feet down into the ground, which seems, you're like, my feet are already on the ground. But I want you to actively drive your feet into the ground and start to try to spread your mat apart. Hold on, one thing I forgot. Set yourself up first and find your tripod stance. So find that heel, big toe, baby toe joint. Shift your whole body so that you're in the middle of your foot. Spread your toes really wide. Now start to press down into the floor. So you're sending that energy straight down, and then start to spread the mat apart with your glutes. Now keep that. You're gonna feel like, okay, I'm heating up through the sides of my legs. Keep that, and then you're gonna start to lower yourself down into your squat. This should feel like you've got strength through the glutes, and you really shouldn't feel a ton happening in your low back. If you are, back it off and go back through the steps to find where you're limited in range of motion. Okay, so showing from the side, we're thinking, okay, weight is over the middle of our foot, toes are spread, tripod stance, pressing down, spreading that mat apart, legs are fired up, back staying nice and neutral. I'm allowing my hips and my knees and my ankles to all bend. Notice that my knees are coming forward, let them. And then push through the floor to come back up. So altogether, we've got 10 down. Now you would still be doing the same tripod stance if you have the ledge under your heel. You still want to think about that same weight distribution. Down, keep that feeling of pressing down and spreading apart. Down and lift up, and down and lift up. Good work. We've got 5 more. So we should feel lots happening in those hips, maybe some happening in the bottom of our feet. It's amazing. I start to say something and I lose track of counting. Let's do 2 more. Down and up. 1 more. Down and back up. Okay. All right, guys. Let's leave it there. I want you to practice this one a lot. Take your time. Pause the video. Go through it as slowly as you need to really find where your limitations and restrictions are. And then there's other videos that you can kind of pull from that are going to work on ankle mobility, hip mobility, knee mobility, and strength. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.